Hi guys, so today I wanted to come to you and do a review on a debut book. This is called Carnivore by Jonathan Lyon, and just noticing his last name, it makes me chuckle because it was mentioned in the book. I'm just having some random thoughts. So yeah, I just wanted to talk to you a bit about this. Well, I got this as an e-copy via the publishers at NetGalley, and it's a really strange book. I don't really know how to describe it, but basically we're following this character called Leander, and you don't really know much about him. He seems to be like the master of lies. You don't really know anything about his backstory. You're just thrown into this situation with him living in like a hostel with who he calls his mother, Dawn. They're not related in any way, but through circumstances they've kind of adopted those terms for each other, and you're basically seeing his crazy life as he gets sort of sucked into this violent lifestyle of drug abuse and death. And you're kind of, he portrays himself as a terrible character, but myself personally, I was kind of rooting for him to win. It's a really strange, twisted book. I don't really know how to go into it any more than that. What I want to say is, if you are easily triggered by anything, this will not be the book for you, because there are some grotesque scenes of drug abuse, rape, the filming of such activities, death, like murder. It is an intense, very controversial, I think that's even in the title, like for the selling point, it's a very controversial debut novel, but I think the way Lyon wrote it was in a very interesting way. So I've already got my reviews up on NetGalley, I've got it on Goodreads, and I've got it on Amazon, I said that a bit strangely, but I just kind of wanted to come on here and summarise it for you in the spoken form, because I know some people prefer being spoken to as opposed to reading something. So I'm just going to highlight some of the points that I mentioned in said reviews for your auditory pleasure, I don't know. So one of the things I want to mention is, I feel like this book, it kind of broadened my horizons, and by that I mean it's made me more open, even more open than I was, to reading strange literature. I guess you could describe this as a strand of bizarro fiction, because some of the things that Leander describes and talks about is not very realistic, and it's explained why he talks that way and speaks that way throughout the book, but I'll get to that in a second. But it almost has those tendencies, it's like I would call it literary fiction with kind of like a sense in the way he speaks and the way he thinks of things, almost like a magical realism. I don't want to missell this to you, like I don't want to get into your head that it's something that it's not. It's not fantasy, it's not magical in that, but the way his thought processes, it's quite it's interesting. It really is interesting, and it's something you're just going to have to read to understand what I mean, hopefully. So back to what I was saying, the way he views things. I'm going to pronounce these terribly wrong, but he suffers from myalgia, which I can't say, I'm so sorry. I looked it up, and it's like the muscle, like basically your body's working against you, your muscles are having like these involuntary like pains going through them, and it's like a chronic disease. So that was really interesting. But he also suffers from I'm gonna have to look this up again because I really can't remember what it's called. He suffers from synesthesia, which from my understanding when I looked it up, it was basically you'd associate one sense with another. So for example, he could be talking about the way a person's skin felt, and then to his mind a colour would emerge or a taste would emerge, and he'd sort of associate them as the same things, which this leads me on to my next point. They're both really interesting. Like I don't know if the latter one was a disease, but the first one I'd never heard of before. It's interesting to learn these things, and it kind of made me understand our character a bit more, because before I decided to look it up, I didn't understand why he was talking the way he was talking and what he meant, like when he was mixing like colours and other senses together. I was like, I don't understand, it was trippy. And that led me to believe that the writing was pretentious. I then came to understand that I think it's our character that's pretentious. He's so full of all this knowledge, and he's trying to play everyone in a certain way. It was him that was coming out strong and being pretentious, and I ended up quite loving that. Like, it it wasn't really pretentious. The writing was very lyrical and beautiful, but it's the way Leander came across as a character that kind of gave it that twist. And I don't know, I'm trying to, like, I've got my notes in front of me and it's there, it's clear, it's straightforward, but expressing it in this form, it's just, I just want you to read it. It's such an interesting book. It's full of twisted, horrible things you shouldn't enjoy, but I'm not ashamed to say that I did enjoy this book. Like, it was just so wrong and amazing at the same time. It's a really twisted confusion. I myself even felt manipulated by Leander, and I don't know, the plot in itself, there were so many different twists. It just got crazier and crazier than you'd expect it to get, and the outcomes just wasn't what you was expecting. I just thought it was an amazing story, basically. I don't want to ramble too much, but I want to leave you by saying this. If you need a new author on your radar that writes kind of like against the boundaries, that puts dark, disgusting like topics within the story but makes it almost sound beautiful, then you need to check out this book and this author. I think I'm going to keep Jonathan Lyon on my radar because I've been astoundingly impressed by this literature that he's come across. I mean, even within the character of Leander, he has suggested to me books that I want to now read, if you know what I mean. Like, I've been inspired to read just because the character that Lyon has created is so twisted and strange for the most part of the book that I want to know the literature that he's interested in. I want to see what inspires him to be the way he is, and so I'm going to take it upon myself to hopefully find some of those books and poems that they mentioned in the book and give them a go. But yeah, that was more of a rambled review than I was expecting, seeing as I'm so composed and I've got everything written out. But this was a 5-star read for me. I really did enjoy it, and I hope if you do pick it up that you enjoy it too. If you have already read it, let me know what you thought about it. I saw some reviews of people saying that it was quite garish and they sort of DNF'd it, but I persevered and I ended up really enjoying it. So yeah, I'll speak to you in another video soon. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.